Breaking news overnight in the Israel-Hamas war. At least 21 Israeli soldiers were killed in Gaza. Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv with the latest developments. Matt, good morning.
As we entered the new year, armed conflict between Israel and Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups around the Gaza Strip has carried on. Originally, this war broke out in 1948. However, in October of 2023, this was Israel's first official declaration of war under Article 40A since the Yom Kippur War in 1973. It calls up 300,000 reservists, the largest number in the history of the country. Its stated goals are to take away Hamas's armed forces and put an end to its control over the Gaza Strip. Just 3 of the 7 designated border crossings in Gaza are now in use. According to reports, Hamas first broke through the boundaries by sending special fighters in on hang gliders. Once inside, the militants demolished the walls and electric gates with explosives. Then, according to reports, bulldozers were employed in a few locations to make room for more fighters to enter Israel. Many countries have remained neutral during this conflict. However, some countries have openly announced which side they are taking, which caused a bit of controversy. Some examples of this include Algeria. Israel's attacks on Gaza have alarmed the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which has accused Israel of breaking international humanitarian law. In addition, Algeria has demanded that the Palestinian people's rights be immediately protected by the international community, describing these rights as essential to resolving the conflict. Algeria aren't the only country to speak up against the conflict. They are joined by Brazil and Belize, who have both called for an immediate end to the violence. Colombia's president has drawn comparisons between the events in Gaza and past events of a similar manner. He took to X, formerly known as Twitter. He stated, "Gaza now seems just as destroyed, if not more so, than the Warsaw Ghetto, which was destroyed by Nazi brutality in retaliation for the uprising of Jews and socialists in that concentration camp." Cuba, Indonesia, Iraq, and Iran have also called for a stop on these events. Amid a global chorus for a ceasefire in Gaza, several countries have supported South Africa in their genocide case against Israel. South Africa's case will be heard in the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in The Hague for the first time. Almost 10,000 of the 23,000 Palestinians who have died as a result of Israel's attack on Gaza are children. South Africa launched the complaint at the end of December, accusing Israel of genocide and demanding an end to the deadly military campaign. According to South Africa's 84-page submission, Israel broke the 1948 Genocide Convention, which was drafted in the wake of the Holocaust and World War II. As signatories to the UN Genocide Convention, South Africa and Israel grant the ICJ, the highest UN court, the authority to adjudicate on disputes pertaining to the pact. Every state that ratified the agreement is required to forbid, prosecute, and refrain from genocide. Acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group is how the treaty defines genocide. Here is what is known about the nations supporting South Africa in their lawsuit against Israel before the World Court, as well as the nations opposing the action. There are many countries that have voiced their support for South Africa during their ICJ case against Israel. The lawsuit received backing on December 30th from the Organization of Islamic Countries, OIC, a group of 57 countries that includes Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, and Morocco. The Malaysian Ministry of Foreign Affairs greeted the South African application with a statement on January 2nd. It restated the demand for an autonomous Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital and based on the pre-1967 borders. Turkey also backed South Africa's case, with the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson taking to X in early January. Bolivia's Foreign Affairs became the first Latin American country to back the case against Israel. In addition to this, it wasn't only countries that have joined South Africa's call. Many advocacy groups and civil society groups around the world have also joined the cause. Some examples of this are Terreiro Pindorama in Brazil and Asociación Nacional de Amistad Italia-Cuba in Italy. Bolivia also mentioned that it has previously asked South Africa, Bangladesh, Comoros, and Djibouti, along with International Criminal Court, ICC, prosecutor Karim Khan, to look into the situation in Palestine. Khan stated that on November 30th, he got the request. There are instances where the ICC and the ICJ are confused. The Hague, Netherlands is home to both courts. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, settles disputes between governments, but the International Criminal Court, ICC, brings criminal charges against individuals, according to the University of Melbourne's Pursuit platform. States are not able to be sued at the ICC, but in cases where crimes, including genocide, are suspected to have been committed, the prosecutor may launch an inquiry. Although there are many countries supporting South Africa, there are many countries that are against it. The US has declared its opposition to the lawsuit pertaining to genocide. During a press briefing at the White House on January 3rd, National Security spokesperson John Kirby described South Africa's submission as meritless, counterproductive, and completely without any basis. On Tuesday, Israeli President Isaac Herzog warned US Secretary of State Antony Blinken that the case was absolutely ridiculous and heinous. Herzog also expressed gratitude to Blinken for Washington's backing of Israel. The European Union, one of Israel's Western friends, has largely kept quiet over the ICJ issue. After submitting extensive legal documentation to the ICJ around a month ago to bolster allegations that Myanmar perpetrated genocide against the Rohingya people, the United Kingdom, which has declined to support the case, has come under fire for allegedly having double standards. Nearly 50 attorneys from South Africa are getting ready to submit a second lawsuit against the US and UK governments, alleging that they are complicit in war crimes committed by Israeli forces in Palestine, following the country's filing of a complaint against Israel for genocide in Gaza at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. Leading the endeavor is Wikus van Rensburg, a lawyer from South Africa, working with attorneys from the US and the UK that he already knows to pursue those involved in the crime in civil courts. With the backing of his colleagues, Rensburg has started preparing to bring a case against the two Western nations. Rensburg has been requesting in letters to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and other nations over the past few weeks, demanding that Israel and its supporters be prosecuted. In an interview with Anadolu, Rensburg stated, "The United States must now be held accountable for the crimes it committed, going over the procedure by which Washington and London will be punished for their roles in Tel Aviv's war crimes against the Gaza people." Rensburg claimed he got a lot of support from those around him after telling them he was about to file a lawsuit. "A large number of solicitors chose to join our case. While a large number of people who have joined are Muslims, I am not. They feel compelled to support this cause, but I think that what is going on is wrong." He used the events in Iraq as an example of this, pointing out that no one held the US responsible for the atrocities it carried out in the Middle East since the matter was not given the appropriate attention. But the South African attorney added, "The US is busy investing more money and more resources to let Israel commit the crime." People today believe what is happening in Palestine is an ideal scenario for the legal process to be carried out. He said, "No one says stop. Enough is enough." Rensburg stated that the process will start depending on the outcome of the lawsuit and the actions to be taken by the UN, and that the genocide case that South Africa filed against Israel at the ICJ will serve as a pattern for their case against the US and UK. Rensburg stated, "The US must now be held responsible for the crimes it has committed," recalling that Berlin is still making payments in restitution for the Holocaust that Germany committed. It needs to acknowledge its obligations. Recalling that such lawsuits were brought against former US President George W. Bush in the 2000s, he stated that they felt that by banding together, they could effectively handle the legal proceedings overseas. He claimed that if the court decided in favor of South Africa, an attack on Israel might occur again, and that South Africa presented stronger arguments in the case in The Hague. The group of lawyers, now numbering 47, addressed an open letter to the heads of the US and UK governments last week, telling them that they could not escape accountability. Even if the US does not acknowledge the ruling, Rensburg thought that sanctions might be imposed if the ICJ trial against Israel is completed in favor of South Africa. He went on to say that the ICJ decision will bolster opposition to the Joe Biden administration. Rensburg said that in order to get ready, he and his South African colleagues are getting in touch with US and UK legal companies. Since the lawsuit was filed, the Israeli army has attacked inhabited homes. most of which comprised displaced people, and carried out nearly 16 atrocities every day. With each attack, dozens of civilians have been killed and injured, as homes above the heads of their occupants have been devastated. 70% of the victims have been women and children, according to Euromed Monitor, which also noted that the Israeli army has mostly targeted civilians with its assassinations, executions, and sniper operations in hospitals, shelters, and public spaces. The rights group added that most of these murders have as their goal the eradication of Gaza's people, the great majority of whom are of Palestinian ethnicity. Euromed Monitor reports that in the last 9 days alone, the Israeli army has assassinated 8 Palestinian journalists. Despite wearing press jackets, at least 3 of them were targeted while doing field reporting. Since October 7th, Israel has repeatedly utilized explosions to kill journalists in their family homes, killing the remaining individuals. With this, the overall number of journalists murdered by Israeli attacks since that date has reached 112, a number believed to be the highest in the annals of contemporary warfare. Thank you for watching till the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you never miss a video.